across many southern areas, but some blustery winds and a few showers towards those southeastern coastal areas. Also a few showers for the far northwest of Wales, and could be a few coastal showers for parts of Scotland. Otherwise, across northern England, Northern Ireland and Scotland, it's looking largely dry. The showery bursts across Orkney and Shetland will continue again for a little while, but gradually easing as we go through the day. But the blustery showers across southeast England, they're actually going to pep up a little bit more as we go through into the afternoon. Also going to see a bit more cloud feeding in from the east, so turning cloudier across many parts of England and Wales, but most of us should still see some bright or sunny spells breaking through. And in the sunshine, not feeling too bad, even if on paper temperatures are a few degrees below average for the time of year. Another chilly night to come tomorrow night into Wednesday, and then another largely fine day really. High pressure sticks around, and so the settled weather stays with us as we go through the end of the week and heading towards the weekend. Signs of some rain arriving, but before then really it's staying dry. Some decent sunshine on offer, and temperatures, well, around average, maybe a touch below at times. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
This is your chance to win a motorhome and cash in our biggest giveaway to date. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be the proud owner of this 2025 Benamar Primero. It comfortably accommodates 4 people and can be driven on your standard driving licence. Plus, you'll also bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's midnight in the UK, it's 7 p.m. here in Washington, D.C. I'm Bev Turner and this is The Late Show Live. On The Late Show Live tonight.
What they don't show is the side of these people like we've talked about where they leave people out here to die of exposure.
It's the biggest issue that unites us and America, immigration. Ben Leo is at a town near the southern border affected by this crisis.
Yes, I'm down here on the southern border in Arizona to see just how President Trump has obliterated illegal migration and how we can do the same in Britain. I also spoke to Republican superstar Kari Lake, who said this.
We have a president who actually cares about our borders and our sovereignty as a country and cares about the citizens, the American citizens. And I hate to say it, but I don't think that's the case where you are.
Well, it comes after the American president had this piece of advice for our Prime Minister.
Your situation is very similar. You know, you have people coming in, and I told the Prime Minister I would stop it, and it doesn't matter if you call out the military, it doesn't matter what means you use.
Send in the military to stop illegal migration. President Trump's message to the Prime Minister was clear at Chequers, but when will we see less rhetoric and more effective action?
Migration, immigration, migration, 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 migration.
The Prime Minister should probably listen to the President.
It's all about common sense.
0 illegal crossings. They have smashed the gangs. Also tonight.
We will not only say that these people do not qualify for indefinite leave to remain, we will abolish indefinite leave to remain as a category in this country.
Reform leader Nigel Farage offers his solution. Today, he announced rather Trumpian plans to close borders and restrict welfare spending for British nationals only. Also breaking tonight.
The meteoric rise in autism is among the most alarming public health developments in history. There's never been anything like this.
The biggest story in DC today, the White House linking paracetamol use to an explosion in autism over recent decades. We're going to talk to a member of the administration about their findings tonight. And
my mistakes have been put on the public stage. Other people's mistakes aren't.
That is because you're a member of the royal family, you loon. The Duchess of York is dropped by 7 charities in one day thanks to her murky transactional relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Plus,
steer wings 1300, turn 20 degrees right immediately. 20 degrees right, pay attention.
that was the view out of my window on Air Force One last week. Little did we know we were nearly blasted out of the sky by a sleepy pilot on a passenger jet. That's another exclusive behind-the-scenes moments. Also tonight. That is the Be Kind Brigade, and this time they're trying to decapitate an effigy of President Trump. Why? I'll tell you why a little later on. I'm Bev Turner, this is The Late Show Live, and your night is just getting started. Nigel Farage is talking tough on immigration, and tonight he's taking aim at one of Britain's core residency rights.
We will not only say that these people do not qualify for indefinite leave to remain, we will abolish indefinite leave to remain as a category in this country.
Announced plans to scrap indefinite leave to remain, as he says there. That's the scheme that allows migrants who've lived legally in Britain for years to settle there permanently. And he gave this stark warning on welfare.
We We are the party that will make massive cuts to welfare spending. And if we don't, well, what is coming down the track will best part bankrupt us, although some might say we're almost there.
The backlash was, of course, immediate. Labour figures accusing him of breaking up families and fostering division. Even the Liberal Democrats weighed in, with their leader, Ed Davey, saying this.
What he's talking about, people who've got permanent leave to stay here, have made their lives here, and what he's actually saying is let's have lots more administration and bureaucracy.
But Nigel Farage's aim is clear. He says reduce the incentive of coming to Britain and cut illegal crossings, which have already passed 50,000 since Labour took office just over a year ago.
The last government lost control of the borders. I'm determined that we'll retake control of the borders.
And this debate isn't just British, of course. In the United States, President Trump has already moved to end the path to permanent residency for some migrants.
I will declare a national emergency at our southern border. All illegal entry will immediately be halted.
Since Donald Trump took office, nearly 150,000 illegal migrants have been arrested at that southern border.
We want to have a great, stable workforce. And we had, as I understand it, a lot of illegal aliens, some not the best of people. They came through illegally, they came into our country, so we have to do our job.
The difference here is stark. In the US, adverts like this fill TV screens, warning illegal migrants their time is up.
Leave now. If you don't, we will find you and we will deport you.
So is it time for Britain to copy the White House, or does Sir Keir Starmer risk being outflanked by Nigel Farage on the one issue voters say matters the most? To get more on this, we've got our Ben Leo is at the southern border town in Arizona affected by the immigration crisis. He's obtained some incredible footage for us, as well as interviews with deported migrants and an exclusive interview with Kari Lake. That a little bit later. But first of all, let's bring in GB News' political editor, Christopher Hope, to give us a synopsis of what Nigel has been saying. Good morning, Christopher. Good evening, good morning. Not quite worked out what to say yet, show one. So tell us, and tell my guests here in the studio as well, what has Farage said? How is it different to what we're used to in the UK?
Bev, great to see you, and great to see you on this fantastic new show we're launching tonight. Yeah, Nigel Farage, of course, the former UK leader, he has gone quite big on immigration here in the UK. He's announced plans to remove the automatic right to remain here, which you do get after 5 years of being here if you're a newly arrived migrant. It's called indefinite leave to remain. Now, the problem the government's got is under the Boris Johnson, the Tory government, hundreds of thousands of people came in one 12-month period, and nearly 1 million people arrived. And after 5 years, those people will get indefinite leave to remain. So Farage is challenging the main parties not to grant that right to remain here, because we can see a huge wave of people, a kind of bulging group of coming down the track who will get this indefinite leave to remain. He's saying act now and deal with it. It's quite clever, I think, because most of these people will be given that indefinite leave to remain before he has a chance to be Prime Minister, if this government lasts the full term to 2028, 2029. But what's interesting, I'm in the dark here. It's midnight, of course, in Britain, Bev, in Bournemouth, because I'm at the Liberal Democrat conference, and tomorrow, or I should say today, we'll be hearing from Ed Davey. He's the Lib Dem leader, of course, the third biggest party in the UK, and he is making clear how obsessed his party is with Donald Trump. One of his key announcements he's making is quite interesting. He will say that he will make the UK a safe haven for American cancer research scientists who are fleeing Trump's, as he calls it, anti-science research agenda. Now, what he says is this, is that hundreds of grants have been cancelled for cancer science They want to leave the US. Why not come to the UK? He'll also call out, and in his big speech, the biggest speech he makes all year, will be devoted in part to Donald Trump in America. He'll be saying this, that Davey will call out the totally false conspiracy theories, he says, peddled by the Trump administration, and talking about this anti-science agenda. And earlier I spoke to Ed Davey. He mentioned not least Nigel Farage 11 times in 11 minutes, once every minute, to show how Davey is focusing on Donald Trump, but also Nigel Farage. But I asked him this big thing. When last week Donald Trump came here for the state dinner, Ed Davey refused to meet him. I wanted to know why, and if he'd change his tune if he gets into power. Here's what he told me. You refused to attend last week's state banquet with Donald Trump. Would you do the same thing again if you were the PM?
Not if I was the PM. Let me explain why. I was the first politician actually to say that Donald Trump should get a state visit. That might surprise you. I disagree
I don't remember that.
No, I did. You can check out the press releases. The reason was I have no problem engaging with someone who I disagree with. I think you should do that.
There you have it there. So guess what? Davey would meet the President of the United States if he becomes Prime Minister. Well, lots of ifs in there. And I think Nigel Farage and others would have something to say about that, Bev.
OK, Chris, thank you so much. Late night at the Lib Dem conference about that's an absolute riot. Thank you for joining us here, though, this evening. GB News presenter Ben Leo is near the US border with Mexico in Arizona. Ben.
Hello, Bev. Good evening, good morning, viewers. Yeah, fantastic to be here in Arizona because it's shed the starkest of lights on how the US is managing the illegal migration problem. Let me tell you how they're managing it. They've obliterated it. President Trump absolutely destroying illegal migration. There's one or two gangs getting over, but nothing compared to the 15 to 25 million who flooded into America under Joe Biden's premiership. And, you know, not all of those people are going to be bad, granted, but let me tell you, they have had swathes of criminals, of narco-terrorists, drug traffickers, sex offenders, people who have gone on to kill American citizens. And the reason I'm here, Bev and viewers, is to get up close and personal to the action, speak to the experts, see exactly how they've done it, and try and find out if there's any tips that we can have back in Britain on how to stop the small boats. It should be, and I think viewers would agree, it should be a hell of a lot easier for us. We're an island surrounded by water. We've essentially got a moat. It's been a lot harder here in the US, but this is a flavour of how they did it. Hello, Ben Leo here from GB News. Last week at the press conference in the United Kingdom, President Donald Trump said he told Keir Starmer, our dear Prime Minister, to send in the military to stop the invasion of our southern border from France. 50,000 small boat migrants have crossed the Channel into the UK in just 1 year since Labour took power. Up to 25 million illegal migrants made their way into the United States under the previous administration, and President Trump, literally overnight, has got that down to almost zero. The question begs, why can't we do something similar in the UK?
I'm going to take you guys down through Casa Grande, through on the I-8, which up until last year was one of the main smuggling corridors in the United States. If you came here a year and a half ago, this would literally be from here to probably over here of nothing but freshly disturbed, freshly kicked up gravel, and that would be all human footprints of just the amount of traffic coming through here. But you're talking thousands a month, thousands. These are what we call sneaky feet. So they put these on their shoes, so it really delays the ability to track them by visual tracking. This is normally used to carry. What they'll do is they'll tie the bales of drugs on these. They'll make these themselves, and then they carry that stuff on from the border on up.
So the difference we see here is that now Trump has come in and it's dramatically reduced illegal migration. Yes. He says it's down to zero. I guess you can never get to zero. But is it proof, Chris, that it's political will which can solve an illegal migration problem?
It's political will and allowing the authorities that have the right to enforce that will do their job.
Yeah.
What they don't show is the side of these people like we've talked about, where they leave people out here to die of exposure. They leave little kids out here to die. They pack them in trucks. They rape women. They have the rape trees and all that stuff. It's absolutely terrible. You know what I mean?
Rape trees. What are rape trees?
So what you get, you guys never heard of that before?
A rape tree?
Yeah, so what happens is, it's something like 70% of women that are trafficked through the border are sexually assaulted. A rape tree is basically, as they're coming up, they'll find a layup spot, and it's usually a smaller mesquite tree or something that isn't maybe like this height here. And once the women are sexually assaulted, bra or panties are taken off them and thrown in a tree. And it's a sign that, hey, like, we own you guys.
Chris, we are literally out here in bandit country. This was
sir.
the scene of where millions of migrants under Joe Biden would flood into America. I mean, President Trump thinks up to 25 million over 4 years. What's changed now?
We now have an administration that says, hey, go out and do your job. And if you do something wrong, you know, and you violate the law, you use excessive force, which you'll be punished for.
The British Empire used to rule the world. We ruled the seas with the Royal Navy. You know, we conquered lands far and wide, and now we can't stop rubber dinghies coming over from Calais. It just seems so incompetent. But you think at least here it was intentional?
I guarantee it's intentional over in the UK too.
Tell us about some of the interactions you've had here with the illegals you've caught over the years.
We had noticed there was a definite difference between the group that was here of, say, 18 or 20 and this other group of, I think it was 10 or 11. I think it was 11 that we caught. And they were kind of giving us the nod like, hey, we're not with these guys. So we ended up digging into it. Once we got them back to be able to fingerprint them and stuff like that, these 11 were found to be high-ranking members of Al-Qaeda. They were what they would call lieutenants in Al-Qaeda.
We've come down to Nogales in southern Arizona, one of the most southern points of the United States, to speak to locals and see how the crackdown on illegal migration has affected them. So you lived in Utah?
Yeah, I lived in Utah for 22 years. So.
Despite being in the country 22 years, you weren't a citizen, didn't have a right to stay?
Yeah, they don't give you no... even if you try to go through the legal steps, they won't give it to you.
That's really sad. It's like hundreds of people have been deported already.
Because people, like I said, like people are not coming over because it's scary. You know, it's scary. It scares people away.
So, Bev, a really fascinating experience. That last person I was speaking to through the border wall, it was literally the wall that divides the United States and America. He was a Mexican citizen who broke into America 22 years ago, and this is going to spark an interesting debate. I'd like your thoughts on this. He was here for 22 years. He had 4 children here. He's got a wife here. ICE, the immigration enforcement over this side of the pond, pulled him over on the roadside a few months ago, found out he'd broken in illegally and kicked him out. His kids are still here. So the big question is, A, what can we learn from the United States? And B, do we need to be as clinical as the US? That guy there, should he maybe have been given an amnesty? Should he have been allowed to stay and apply for citizenship? But no, under the Trump administration, he's been kicked out, and he was now literally looking back at his home in America longingly through the border wall. It was an amazing experience, Bev, and as Sheriff Chris Lepre said there, he thinks it all comes down to political will. Forget policies, forget all this, rhetoric about international law. What can France do to help us? He said it just depends who's in number 10.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Absolutely fascinating. We'll be back with Ben a little later in the show as well. He's done a sit-down with Kari Lake. You may know her, absolutely fearless Republican, very controversial, but she will tell you what she thinks. To discuss this issue, though, on the border, let's speak now to US Customs and Border Protection Senior Advisor Ronald Vitiello. Good evening to you, Ronald. Thank you very much for joining us on this. It's a very different situation here in the United States of America than it is in the UK. Your president has come in and been very muscular, has brought this figure down to 0. I don't know how familiar you are with the situation in the UK, but is there anything that we could do to stop the huge numbers which are coming in every day to the UK and being accommodated at taxpayer expense? Ronald.
Well, delighted to be with you. I think your package there describes what are some of the elements, right? In the United States, our U.S.-Mexico border, there's a physical situation that needs to be addressed. Technology, personnel, and having the right infrastructure, including a wall at the border, helps reduce the traffic. Also, the policy and the leadership, in this case of the White House, the Secretary of Homeland Security, have the policy right. The policy is a number of things. The president signed an executive order that said no releases at the border. We've had 0 since the end of May this year. He declared an emergency at the border. So people who do come in are likely to be caught. They will be prosecuted under federal law, and they will be removed fairly quickly under the administrative procedures about deportations and removals from the U.S. So in combination, the physical border needs to be addressed, the policy has to be right, and you have to have good leadership that says, this is what I ran on in the case of President Trump. This is what the American people deserve. And now it's time for the operators in the field, my former colleagues in the Border Patrol, the people at CBP that I work with every day now, are executing that policy, which means no releases, helping ICE in the interior with a large-scale deportation effort. All of those in combination lead to a much more secure border, zero releases into the United States. We've stopped the incentive that was evident in the Biden administration that allowed millions of people to come and be released into the U.S.
Ronald, let me just ask you, in the situation that we just heard from Ben there about somebody that's been here for 22 years, had 4 children. I've also spoken to people in Washington whose husbands have been sent back to Venezuela or South America. Do those people have a right of appeal? Because those cases sound pretty extreme, I think, to British ears.
Well, there is a process under the administrative procedures. They can ask to see an immigration judge. That judge will rule on whether they have status to stay or be in the United States. The judge, though, cannot change the law. And so people who have children in the United States, if they have a spouse in the United States, there are procedures for them to immigrate if those children are old enough, if they have residence in the United States, et cetera. There are pathways for people to obtain residency status through relations that they have in the United States. In the case of that man, I'm going to guess his children are too young. It doesn't really matter how long he stayed in the United States. It is a difficult thing to enforce the immigration system, but if you don't have integrity in that system, people will abuse it. There's lots of places not to be in the world, and people want to come to the United States for a better life. We understand that. Many of us in the U.S. have an immigration background history in our families. But as it stands now, you cannot come across the border illegally and hope to stay in the United States because the law doesn't allow for it.
Okay, Ronald, really fascinating. Thank you so much. US Customs and Border Protection Senior Advisor Ronald Vitiello there. I'm going to be talking in just a minute after this quick break to a former Biden advisor who's here with me in the studio, so you do not want to miss that. But also, still ahead on The Late Show Live.
BBC should not be putting out lies. And unfortunately, what they're trying to do is prop up the lies they've previously told.
Kari Lake gives her honest take on the state of Britain's borders. But before that...
Do you think Jimmy Kimmel should have been cancelled?
No.
Is it an attack on free speech?
Yeah, definitely.
Breaking in the last few hours, he sparked a free speech debate across America and was just taken off air a week ago. But Disney make a major Jimmy Kimmel announcement. We'll explain all of that in just a minute. It's The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live with me, Bev Turner. Now, do you remember this from just over a week ago?
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
That was Jimmy Kimmel, the US late night host, and he's returning to screens just a week after he was taken off air for the remarks he made over Charlie Kirk's murder. It seems that his show wasn't suspended by Donald Trump or the FCC, but rather by Disney, who concluded that some of his comments were ill-timed and insensitive. Well, hundreds of Hollywood stars have signed an open letter in defense of free speech, including Jennifer Aniston, Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep. So to discuss this more, I'm joined by political consultant and former advisor to Boris Johnson, that's not a brag, Thomas Corbett-Dillon, and the former chief of staff to Joe Biden, Susan Platt. Thank you both for joining me. I will be kinder to you, Charles, Thomas, as the show comes on. You get your name wrong. Right, let's talk about Jimmy Kimmel first of all. Susan, let me come to you. Why do you think he was sacked or suspended, we now know, from that position?
Well, I think it's a broader problem that we have now, and it's called the First Amendment. And I do believe when Brendan Carr came out and said, well, we can do it the easy way or the hard way, he sounded like a mob boss. Even Republicans said that. So I think probably Disney said, oh, wait a minute, we don't want to incite the king of the United States at the moment, Donald Trump. He just, you know, King Charles brought a check and see if he has all his crowns, because this guy may have come back with one of them. I would not be surprised. But you know, here's
Are you
the thing.
suggesting that your president would steal from the King of England?
Well, he's already been indicted on 34 counts of felony, so why not? What's different?
Oh, that is just a low blow, isn't it, Thomas? Like, should we just?
Well, isn't it true?
Well, I mean, you can argue that all day long, whether that court was effective. I think that most people seem to acknowledge that that was a pretty dodgy ruling and nothing seems to happen about that. But I think on the ABC thing, it's backfired so massively on the left because they all said that Trump did it. He made it happen. No, it was Disney that decided that what he said was out of control. And they've now come back and said he can come back on. But the fact of it is, doesn't matter if the show comes back on, he's still not funny. So, you know, no one's going to be watching. They'll tune in for the first one. It'll probably be big viewing figures. And then the next day, no one will watch.
I'm sorry, Tom, but the guy's been on for 20-some years. He must be funny to some people. He must be paying the bills. But you know what? Disney's looking at doing other mergers. This is called big corporate America trying to take over all the right-wingers, and now we're talking about people like you know, all the high-tech guys that are right-wing trying to take over TikTok. Murdoch is one of them.
But I mean, Trump,
and that's First Amendment.
Well, Trump has literally tried to take Murdoch to court recently over. So I don't think they're necessarily on the same side. But some of the things the left was saying after Charlie Kirk's death were horrific.
Do you remember what Donald Trump said when Nancy Pelosi's husband was smashed in the head by an intruder with a hammer?
But two wrongs don't make a right. Two wrongs don't make a right.
That's correct. But don't point to the left all the time. It's a problem on both sides. And frankly, I'm here today, Thomas and Bev, with you on a show that I probably don't agree with a whole lot. But I'm here in good faith because at some point, we have to tone down the rhetoric.
Yeah.
We have to start talking a little bit more. And we all know in politics, what comes around goes around. And we all go in cycles. And isn't it time to lower the rhetoric just a little bit?
But do you think that is on the right, though? Do you see that it's the Republicans who are keeping the rhetoric high? Because some of the responses to Charlie's death on social media were the worst of humanity.
It's a free country. We're allowed to say those things. Look, I feel for Erica Kirk. She lost her husband. I know how she feels. I lost mine a couple years ago. But hers to be lost so violently, I understand that. But if she can get up in a crowd of ever how many thousand people are there and say, I forgive him, and Donald Trump says, I'm sorry, I can't, I hate them. That's not the message that I think anybody in the world, let alone the United States, wants to hear right now.
But I think, I don't know about you, Thomas, but when Donald Trump said that he said, I'm not as good a person as you, I hate my adversaries. I thought that was just him being really honest about his character. Because most people...
But is that a leader?
I think that's very transparent. I think that's really honest, and maybe that is a leader. I mean, if a leader lies, if you consider a leader to have to lie, then that's not a leader. But what do you think?
Well, I think, this is one of Trump's great benefits, is that he's not a shape-shifting politician. A lot of politicians would have stood up there and tried to be, really sad and make it all about, particular things. He is always himself, and that's what people like. He was willing to stand up there and say, yeah, I'm not going to forgive the guy. And I think people will relate to that.
That's what I mean. And he didn't necessarily even say, I'm not going to forgive the guy. He said that the people who are his opponents, he said, I don't like my opponents. I thought that was just honest. Isn't that not being a typical politician? Isn't that why he's popular, Susan? Is because people who sat at home with their remote control would go, yeah, I don't have her depths of compassion and apology, her depths of forgiveness either.
I think what we need now is a little bit lowering the rhetoric. Donald Trump it set out on Twitter, I guess, just the other day, that Pam Bondi, Attorney General, needs to go after his critics because they went after him. Is that really what we want in our leaders? Or don't we want to look at the facts and follow the facts? He's just fired the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia because he couldn't find the evidence to indict Letitia James.
He hasn't fired as many people as he did in his first term, though. We can agree on that, because it did feel like in the first term he was firing people every couple of weeks. But isn't the issue now is that he's surrounded himself with people that he trusts? He's got a very close team. The two plane loads of people that went to Charlie Kirk's funeral, they're like a White House family. They have a unity and a care for each other. I've never seen that in politics before, have you?
No, and you notice it with Vice President J.D. Vance. He's the most public Vice President we've had in a long time. Normally a Vice President sort of shoved in the cupboard and no one really hears from them, which happened to Camilla under Biden, But J.D. is out there. You've got RFK at the front. You've got so many strong people that are, as you say, all around the president. And, in 2016, we don't even think he expected to win. When he won that, he was kind of surprised. They weren't ready for DC yet, but this time they were ready to come in, and they've come in really strong.
You might find, Susan, you like being here, because we do have both sides of the debate. And we talk about everything here, and we do it with a smile on our face, and we always leave being friends. So I'm just going to give you a statement. The Walt Disney Company have said last Wednesday we made the decision to suspend production on the show to avoid further inflaming a tense situation at an emotional moment for our country. It is a decision we made because we felt some of the comments were ill-timed and thus insensitive. Let me know what you think. gbnews.com/your say. I have missed you and I can't wait to hear your messages. Still to come this evening on The Late Show Live.
Mr. Kirk built a huge and devoted following for his far-right views and his eagerness to debate with opponents.
The BBC has sparked outrage as Charlie Kirk is branded far-right during coverage of his funeral. Is this an outright smear? But before that...
I've made thunderous mistakes. So yes, I've got better judgment at 51 now because of my appallingly bad judgment. And there's nothing, my mistakes have been put on the public stage. Other people's mistakes aren't. And there are many things that are good, but good news doesn't sell papers.
You're a royal. Well, is the King about to banish Fergie? I'll bring you all the details plus all of tomorrow's front pages. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Miriam, you can't be serious. Scrapping the triple lock on state pensions? Madness.
Andrew, we just can't carry on pretending. The numbers just don't add up. We've got to be honest with people. We've got to face the facts. That's what people want.
Well, that's what you get on GB News and on Britain's Newsroom. Lively debates, lively conversation.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first, and we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live with me, Bev Turner. Now, take a look at this. That was the moment that presumably anti-Trump people were decapitating an effigy of Trump live on social media. On the back of that lady's t-shirt it said, "Do unto others as you would have done to yourself." Honestly, the irony of it. Let's take a look at some of the newspaper front pages. The Telegraph has reported that the Chancellor Rachel Reeves has been told to launch a tax raid on pensioners by adding increasing tax on incomes. The Times this morning is reporting on Nigel Farage claiming Reform UK will save £234 billion by banning migrants. And on The Sun, convicted sex offender Christian Bruckner, a suspect in the disappearance of Madeleine McCann, has said that he has information to end the scandal of the century. The New York Post is leading with he's back. Jimmy Kimmel's set to return, but he will not apologise for the comments he made over Charlie Kirk. And the Washington Post is Disney brings back Jimmy Kimmel sidelined after Charlie Kirk comments. Let me know your thoughts this evening at gbnews.com/your say. I just want to, before we go to Christo, I want to ask Susan to my right, what do you make of that footage of presumably Democrats beating the living daylights out of a Trump piñata?
That's gone on since the beginning of time. So you can't just blame Democrats. Republicans do it too.
It's not very nice though, is it?
It's not very nice, and I wouldn't do it, but you know, you're allowed to do it.
Okay, right, let's talk back to Christo Foufas, who is in London, journalist and broadcaster. Christo, good morning, good evening.
Morning, and congratulations on the new show.
Thank you, my friend. It is lovely to see a familiar face. Right, what should we start with? Farage facing questions on migrant benefit sums. He's laid out his stall here, Nigel. He's drawn clear water between him and Keir Starmer and what he would do with illegal migration. And of course, now the Times leading with facing questions. Why?
Yeah, it's interesting actually, and you will get some of the newspapers this morning. There is, frankly, from some of them, hysteria, I have to say. Look, The Guardian is saying outrage. The Mirror has gone for the NHS wrecker, claiming that it's going to cause the NHS to collapse. So there's nothing like a little bit of hyperbole. I do think it's fair to say that there needs to be a little more detail to this policy. I thought actually the report that Ben Leo did earlier about whether people have settled a life in a country, that they have the right to stay. But as you rightly say, the Times is saying that he's facing these questions on these migrant benefit sums that he's referenced. 234 billion is what he's claiming would be saved by banning foreigners from claiming benefits, and that's what's facing scrutiny. For anyone who isn't aware of the story, it's basically Farage is saying that reform, if elected, would get rid of the indefinite leave to remain, which is what is in place now, and have people who are in the UK have to apply for visas every 5 years, and they have to show that they are a net contributor to the United Kingdom. Now, the devil will be in the detail, and on a personal level, for instance, my dad, who's been here since 1970, has got indefinite leave to remain. Now, he has been in the UK for 55 years. He has never claimed benefits, never taken anything out of the system, started a business, paid loads of tax. So I would like to know, and I think it's fair to ask, that people like that would be safe. Presumably they would be, because he's been a net contributor, but I think it's that kind of level of detail that Farage has got to come up with. But in principle, I think it's a good idea.
OK, Christo, great to see you. Thank you for joining us. Christo Foufas there in London. Let me bring my panel back in. Political consultant Thomas Corbett-Dillon and the former Chief of Staff to Joe Biden, Susan Platt. On this migration issue, Susan, I have been dying to talk to you about this, and we're 42 minutes into the show. When you see the package from Ben Leo there on the border, and you see that Donald Trump has brought this down to zero, the number of illegal migrants, why did Joe Biden not do that in any way, shape or form? Is it just that he thinks illegal migration is good?
This country was built on immigrants, and clearly this country has over 360 million people. You all have 60 million or so in the UK. It's a lot bigger. These people are trying to escape horrible situations for the most part. I'm all in favor of stopping criminals and gangs and rapists and murderers. But when you see people doing what they're supposed to do, they go to court, they have their hearing, they do exactly, they're working, they're productive citizens, and they walk out from doing exactly what they're supposed to do, and a masked Iceman takes them and goes off with them. Their families don't know where they are, the children are left behind. I understand the need, and I will say this. There was a way, it's been a problem for some time, and there was a way to begin fixing this. But Donald Trump told the Republicans in the Senate, don't pass it. I want the issue. Now, I'm not saying that we need to be down to zero. We need some of these workers, clearly, but we don't need the criminals. But a lot of these people that Donald Trump has removed from this country are not criminals. But they're moms and kids.
But the ICE issue is slightly different, I think, to what we've seen at the border, because we don't have anything that compares to ICE. So immigrations and customs, just for viewers in the UK who may not know what that is.
That's where all the numbers come from. But it's the ICE raids. They're just rounding up people without any regard of what they're doing, if they're productive citizens or what they are. It's kind of like, I was in Harper's Ferry last week.
Me too.
Okay.
It's very nice, just outside of Washington,
nice.
D.C. If you're not familiar with it, it's about 90 minutes away in the car. It's lovely.
It's a national park.
Beautiful.
But members of the Trump administration were there too. They had their own raid. Harper's Ferry is famous for being a raid to fight back the federal government and slavery. John Brown was there. John Brown's body was hung not far from there for going against the country. Members of the Trump administration went to John Brown's museum to take out 30 pieces of displays to erase the fight against slavery.
But that's
erasing history. That's the same thing we're doing now. We're having
you guys
raids
tore down
all
every
over.
statue in COVID. Remember when you were tearing down statues? Come on, you can't complain about them removing things from a museum. You were tearing down the statues. All the statues in Richmond are gone. That was crazy.
They were put up during the Jim Crow era. They were there for intimidation, not for history.
But in terms of the actual human beings, let's talk about the human beings for a minute rather than the symbol. There will be American citizens who are delighted and they sleep better at night, thinking that there aren't people with who knows what criminal record, who knows what intent crossing the border. They're not coming in anymore. No. And there are 70 million people in the UK who would probably sleep better at night thinking we weren't spending taxpayers' money on accommodating similar sorts of people.
Absolutely, and I think one of the big things being missed is that every single person that ICE is picking up is a criminal. They entered this country illegally. That is a crime. They may have not robbed anything while they're here, but they broke the law. They did not enter this country legally. And I think it's the same thing with the channel migrants. They are breaking the law by entering that country illegally. And the fact that they get caught and released and go to hotels and all this, it's madness, and I think the Americans are looking on completely shocked at how the UK is handling this system. But I think something very interesting to look at is what the Labour government are doing is what the Joe Biden government did for 5 years. They are just letting as many people in as they can, and what's going to happen is Farage is going to come in and do exactly what Trump is doing. So we're going to have some big changes in the UK.
Well, why did Biden not try to do more, Susan?
He did try. They did try in the Senate. Donald Trump told them no. We had compromise. Compromise is a dirty word to Donald Trump and the MAGA supporters.
Well, I think
they want to win at any cost.
Surely it just depends if you want to get stuff done. Hasn't politics been slowed down by so much compromise?
We have 3 different branches of government for a reason. That's to check people, checks and balances. Right now, I think only what we have is one, which is the White House. The Congress is doing nothing. We're about to run out of the budget in a couple of days, and where are we going to be?
Just to explain to our viewers the difference there, because that is quite a different system than the UK. And there's a legislative arm of the government, isn't it? That there is controversy over whether Donald Trump is using that enough or whether he's overriding it and, as you say, acting like a king.
Sure, he is. I mean, the Supreme Court and other courts have said that to him on quite a number of issues. And, if I were a Democratic senator right now, looking at the budget, why would I vote for a budget when Donald Trump's going to turn around and pocket veto anything that I pass? Why would you?
Is he doing anything that you like?
No, particularly today when RFK comes out and says, Tylenol, it's false science, it's fake, it's conspiracy.
How do you know?
Because for 25 years they've studied this and found no causal correlation. And now all of a sudden Donald Trump comes out and said, well, this could be the issue.
We are going to talk about this a bit later in the show.
It?
But how extraordinary, though, that you've got the NIH, you've got the CDC, you've got the Make America Healthy Again guys all looking with the best of intention at or a metadata analysis, and your conclusion before you've even seen their findings is that it's a conspiracy.
Did you listen to the woman who was fired from the CDC at the hearings last week?
Yeah, I have. And I'm seeing how Kennedy is sweeping the board from all the people that have been paid by the pharmaceutical industry for years.
I'm sorry, but that's not true. They've been government employees. The woman who left had been government employed forever. So many of them.
Government employees, but whilst taking the money of pharmaceutical industries.
Well,
I think that's so fascinating. You say you don't want division, and yet you've seen these respected medics like Jay Bhattacharya come out on TV tonight and stand in the White House. He has nothing to gain from saying, please be cautious about using paracetamol in pregnancy because autism has been allowed to explode for 30 years. And you say, that can't be true before you've seen their evidence?
Well, they've had studies that have been around for 25 years and said that that is not true. That is not the case. But I will say this, you talk about government employees and pharmaceuticals. Mr. Holman, who's head of the security of the border, was caught on tape taking $50,000 in a bribe.
Well, I don't know.
By the FBI. They have it on tape. But here's the guy that we brought in, his political cronies, that will do whatever he tells them to do. Again, we have the White House, we have the Congress and the courts.
Yeah, but Tom Hammond, who is the immigration czar, he is not here to defend himself, and that is a really serious allegation.
It's been on the television all day.
I am not familiar with that story about that, but let me just turn to you then, Thomas. Just that reaction there about the fact that whatever the Donald Trump administration does, like I asked that question with genuine intent, Susan, is there anything that Donald Trump has done that you think is a success? And if we're going to build bridges, we all have to look at the other side and say, I think actually, to his credit, I think he's done this quite well. And yet it feels like when it comes to Donald Trump, nobody can see anything that they like.
And we have a word for this on the right. It's called TDS. It's Trump derangement syndrome. And it is the issue that they cannot ever admit that Trump has done something right. So I think that is one of the big problems, because there is some things that Trump has done right. And we are seeing, for example, in DC, the crackdown on crime. A lot of DC residents are pretty happy. And this is a very left-wing city. They're actually quite happy. Their Amazon boxes are not being stolen anymore. They like that. So, you know, he is doing good things, and I think some people are willing to acknowledge it.
But you're forgetting to say the National Guard people that are here supposedly guarding are shoveling mulch on the parks. They're not guiding and protecting anybody. They're shoveling mulch. Is that what the National Guard's for?
Their presence is enough.
You must feel safer, Susan, walking down the streets of DC. I do. Having been here for 3 weeks, I walk down the streets of DC at night. It's a bit sketchy. I mean, wasn't this the murder capital of the country until quite recently?
Back in the early 90s.
I didn't tell my family that when I came to stay here, by the way. But you have a crime problem, or you did. And
in the early 90s, we had a crime problem. I lived here on Capitol Hill in the early 90s. We don't any longer.
But don't you as a woman feel safer walking down the street at night? I'm walking home. There's 3 guys with guns and there's police on that corner. I'm like, evening, fellas. They're like, all right, Bev. I've got on first name terms with them now. You know, that's remarkable as a woman. We would love that in the UK.
You saw 3 people with guns in the street?
The National Guard.
Well, okay, the National Guard, but they're not criminals.
They're there to look after me. Right, lots more to talk about. Right, I think we're going to take a quick break here. We're having a few listening issues, I think, here between here and the UK. I am throwing to Sarah Ferguson. Here you go.
I've made thunderous mistakes. So, yes, I've got better judgment at 51 now because of my appallingly bad judgment. And there's nothing, you know, my mistakes have been put on the public stage. Other people's mistakes aren't. And there are many things that are good, but good news doesn't sell papers.
That was Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, speaking in 2013. Well, her private life has once again been brought under the microscope. She's making headlines tonight on both sides of the Atlantic. 7 charities, including the Teenage Cancer Trust, have now cut ties with her after leaked emails from 2011 revealed that she described convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein as a steadfast, generous, supreme friend. GB News Royal correspondent Cameron Walker has more.
Well, it has not been a good day for Sarah, Duchess of York. A number of charities have now cut ties with her. This all stems back from 2008 when Jeffrey Epstein was convicted of a number of child sexual offences. Then in 2011, the Duchess took part in an interview where she apologised for accepting £15,000 from the convicted paedophile to try and settle some of her debts. In that interview, she also promised never to see or speak to Jeffrey Epstein again. But a couple of weeks later, she secretly emailed him apologising for what she said during that media interview. She also called him her supreme friend. And this email came out in the papers over the weekend, which has created a lot of scandal surrounding the Duchess. And now, as I said, a number of charities have cut ties with her. This appears to be a domino effect of charities not wanting to be associated with the Duchess and what they clearly see as poor judgments. Now, I understand that the Duchess sent that email because she was threatened by Jeffrey Epstein with legal action for what she said during that interview. But nonetheless, a lot of people are saying it's poor judgment and it's yet another nail in the reputation of the Duke and Duchess of York.
So let's speak to royal broadcaster Sarah Louise Robertson now. Sarah Louise, very good morning. Thank you for joining us here on The Late Show Live. This is a terrible situation for Sarah Ferguson. There can be no coming back from this. Is she going to get kicked out of that lovely royal house?
She's finished. She's absolutely finished, Bev. There is no comeback, as you've just pointed out. I mean, it's just utterly disgraceful. The fact that she, you know, referred to Epstein as her friend. She praised his judgment. She said how steadfast, loyal and generous he was because of the £15,000 that she owed him. And she was obviously hoping by buttering him up, despite the fact of knowing that he was on charges of paedophilia, that she was maybe going to hopefully hold on to that 15,000. The trouble is with the Duchess of York, Bev, is she has always been a real spender. The late Queen Elizabeth, her mother-in-law had to pay off her debts a couple of times, so's the Duke himself. And interestingly, in that email that she sent to Jeffrey Epstein, she says, oh, I don't want to cause Andrew, her husband, any more pain. So you see, I mean, it was Sarah Ferguson who also brought Epstein into her husband, Andrew's life. So she has to play a massive, she has to take responsibility for her actions, Beverly. And I mean, there's just no way back for her. I mean, the King's been looking for a way to get them out of Royal Lodge, which is this 30-room home, grace and favour home that they live in. And Andrew, the Duke of York, has so far steadfastly refused to budge. He's, you know, dug his heels in. But what choice do they have now? I mean, Sarah really can't be seen in public life. Charles wants to ban them now from royal family events. It's, you know, this is it for her. All the charities have dropped her. She really can't be seen in public life anymore. Not with this hanging over her head. It's just too much.
Okay. Thank you, Sarah. Well summed up. So let me tell you what a spokesman for the Duchess of York said. The Duchess spoke of her regret about her association with Epstein many years ago, and as they have always been, her first thoughts are with his victims. Like many people, she was taken in by his lies. As soon as she was aware of the extent of the allegations against him, she not only cut off contact but condemned him publicly to the extent that he then threatened to sue her for defamation for associating him with paedophilia. She does not resile from anything she said then. This email was sent in the context of advice the Duchess was given to try to assuage Epstein and his threats. More to come in the next hour.
BBC should not be putting out lies. And unfortunately, what they're trying to do is prop up the lies they've previously told.
Kari Lake reveals to Ben Lear what she thinks about the state of Britain's borders, the BBC, and even the potential of a Prime Minister, Nigel Farage. Don't go anywhere.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's 1 a.m. in the UK. It's 8 p.m. here in Washington, D.C. I'm Bev Turner, and this is The Late Show Live. On The Late Show Live tonight.
So, despite being in the country 22 years, you weren't a citizen, didn't have a right to stay?
Yeah, they don't give you even if you try to go...
The biggest issue that unites us and America, illegal migration. Ben Leo is at a town near the southern border affected by this crisis.
Well, we put them up in hotels and give them spending money and bus passes. But what they've done in the United States, Bev, is kick them out. Illegal migration down to zero, all thanks to Donald Trump and the southern border. Here's what Republican superstar, who has the ear of Donald Trump, by the way, Kari Lake, told me earlier today.
We have a president who actually cares about our borders and our sovereignty as a country and cares about the citizens, the American citizens. And I hate to say it, but I don't think that's the case where you are.
The meteoric rise in autism is among the most alarming public health developments in history. There's never been anything like this.
The biggest story in Washington, D.C. today, the White House linking paracetamol use to an explosion in autism over recent decades. We'll talk to a member of the administration about their findings tonight. And breaking right now, President Trump has arrived in New York City ahead of the United Nations General Assembly that is taking place there this week.
Steer wings 1300, turn 20 degrees right immediately. 20 degrees right, pay attention.
And from one plane to another, that was the view out of my window on Air Force One last week. Little did we know, we were nearly blasted out of the sky by a sleepy pilot on a passenger jet. That's another exclusive behind-the-scenes moment tonight. I'm Bev Turner, this is The Late Show Live, and your night is just getting started. I'm sure she's a familiar face to you. She's appeared on GB News before. She's a huge star here in America. I'm talking, of course, about Republican firebrand Kari Lake. She's hit out at the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, and his approach to dealing with illegal migration in Britain. GB News presenter Ben Leo is in Arizona, where he sat down with her a little earlier today. Ben, what did she tell you?
Yes, good morning, viewers. I sat down with Kari Lake. She's a Republican superstar, if viewers aren't familiar with her. She has the ear of President Donald Trump, and she was tipped to be his vice president last year. So she definitely has a lot of authority in the Republican Party and some influence on the administration too. We spoke about everything from the border here in southern Arizona, what we could learn from the United States when it comes to illegal migration, and she had some very stern words too for the likes of the BBC when they called Charlie Kirk far right at his memorial service yesterday. Take a look. Kari Lake, good evening. Republican superstar, welcome to the very first episode of The Late Show Live on GB News, broadcasting from America. Thank you for your company, really appreciate it. We've had a rather interesting weekend. I went down to the southern border in Arizona, and the big question is for us Brits in the UK is, first of all, why can President Trump stop illegal migration pretty much in its tracks, and we can't in the UK? Just for some context, 50,000 illegal migrants crossing the channel in just 1 year since Labour took power. What's going on there? What's the difference?
Well, we have a president who actually cares about our borders and our sovereignty as a country, and cares about the citizens, the American citizens. And I hate to say it, but I don't think that's the case where you are. And we know that because under President Biden, we had something similar to what was happening in the UK, just unfettered, open borders, look the other way, federal agencies that just didn't care that we were being invaded, truly invaded. And President Trump did care. You know, when Biden was in office, they said, oh, we've got to have this very expensive piece of legislation, and it's going to cost billions of dollars. And all we really needed was a new president who actually believed in borders. And with President Trump, we've seen just a massive change in policy. We went under the Biden administration from aiding and abetting terrorist cells and human smugglers and drug smugglers. Literally, the Biden administration was aiding the people who were smuggling human beings and drugs into our country and pouring illegals into our country. And now we have a president who said, no, enough is enough. We're shutting it down. We're going to use Border Patrol to stop people from crossing. We're going to come down and crack down hard on the smuggling cells and the drug cells. And we are not going to allow this country to be invaded. And it can happen quickly. I mean, it happened right away. President Trump solved the border crisis immediately because he stopped the policies of Joe Biden. And that's frankly what I believe many European nations need right now. Strong leaders who care about the sovereignty, the culture, and the people of their nations. And when you get that, you can solve this problem quickly.
Yeah, I've seen the ICE commercials where you say, look, we'll give you $1,000 to go home, we'll put your flights on, and you can reapply legally. So it just shows the intent, you know, you're putting out government commercials. Kari, you mentioned about Joe Biden with all these excuses saying, we can't do this because we need legislation, or we need to go and make sure we're adhering to this law and so on. It sounds very similar to the UK, where Prime Minister Keir Starmer says, oh, well, we have this one in, one out policy. We need to work with France. We need to maybe give more money to France. There's international law. Does it sound like the same old excuses that the Biden administration was rolling out?
Oh, 100%. I mean, and if those excuses continue, England will cease to be England. And many people have already said that it is gone. People have said it's no longer England. We're losing our culture. We're losing what makes this world so interesting and dynamic by just thinking you can import and deposit millions of people with a completely different culture, different language, different religion, plop them down in a country and expect that country to still exist. It would be a terrible thing to watch the fall of Great Britain, of England. And I don't know what your future looks like, but I know that the leaders there have not shown the courage and the backbone needed to protect their citizens. And when you look at the population makeup now, because of all this unfettered immigration, you wonder if it can be pulled back from the abyss and how they should handle it.
Looking at the future of the UK, one Nigel Farage is leading every poll here for the last 6 months with Reform UK. What's your take on Nigel? Do you think he'd be a good Prime Minister? And does America want him to be Prime Minister?
Well, I have to say that I'm friends with Nigel, so I always like to place anything that would give me bias out front, and because I'm friends with him, naturally, if I had a vote, that's who I would vote for. But I'm just speaking as an individual, not for the United States government. Sure. I'm speaking as an individual, and I think he would be great. I think he would put Great Britain first. But you know, it's going to have to be somebody in order to pull you back from the abyss, who cares about these issues, who says, look, we're no longer going to allow people to storm into our country, to break into our country, to take over our country. And I don't see that personally happening with your current leadership there. And so I think a change is needed. And basically what I'm seeing on the streets of the UK, when I saw, well, I don't know, I've heard many different estimates, up to 1 million people on the streets protesting. They want their freedom of speech back. Something's got to give.
Okay, you were at the Charlie Kirk Memorial yesterday. I had the privilege of being there too, and actually it was one of the most extraordinary days of my life, and that's not an understatement. The energy in the room, we've spoken about it, it was electric, it was godlike. Unfortunately, Kari, the BBC in the UK decided to describe it as a far-right event, calling Charlie Kirk far-right. What's your take on that?
That's unfortunate, and it's that kind of mischaracterization and conversation that is actually, I think, leads to some of the problems we're having. When you're constantly taking one group of people and demonizing them, as they you know, calling President Trump fascist and Hitler and you know, xenophobic and homophobic and all of the phobics, and just constantly in a steady drumbeat doing that, it starts to seep into the minds, especially of young people. And when all they hear 24/7 is just negative talk, demonizing people who care deeply about our country, that's when you end up getting people who are unstable committing heinous acts, like we saw with the just atrocious assassination of our friend Charlie Kirk.
Can I ask you though, just sticking with the BBC on that, why do the likes of the BBC, I mean, the BBC is international, you have international broadcasts in the US, for example. A, why do they resort to such language like that, just saying, oh, far right? And B, do you think the BBC is failing the people of Britain? Because of course we are forced to pay a licence fee for the BBC, whether you watch it or not, whether you just want to watch GB News, you still have to pay a licence fee to fund the BBC. Do you think they're letting Britain down?
The BBC should not be putting out lies, and unfortunately what they're trying to do is prop up the lies they've previously told. We're watching this in the media right now. The world has caught on that the media has been lying to us, and now instead of course correcting and saying, whoa, we have not been good at the way we're covering things, they double down and continue to gaslight with lies, where they're calling people names, et cetera, et cetera. Even events that are affecting, when the president was visiting with the king, and the coverage is greater on our network than what the BBC is covering. It's like they don't want to cover anything that would make Donald Trump look good, because they've been castigating him for so long. If all of a sudden they cover something that makes him look good, then it shows the people they've been lying.
What Keir Starmer did after President Trump left is recognise Palestine as a state. We're now going to have some sort of embassy-like building in the middle of London. Why did Keir Starmer wait for Trump to leave before doing that?
I definitely think that world leaders, including Starmer, he knows that that President Trump will call you out if he disagrees with you. And many of them don't want to be called out by such a powerful leader. They don't want to be embarrassed, or possibly they might be ashamed of what they're doing, and they don't want to have anybody look at them and call them out publicly.
Okay, finally, can I talk to you about free speech in the UK, Kari? Because, I mean, again, it's worlds apart from the US. You have, of course, you know, the First Amendment. What's your thoughts as an American on what's going on in the UK from what you've seen? Because there was an incident over the weekend, this clip went absolutely viral online, where an American citizen living in the UK had a knock at the door from police, over a Facebook post. I'm not sure what she said. It was very, very tame. But the police came in and said, we need to take your details. You've reported this Facebook post. So it's directly affecting US citizens. And, of course, our Online Safety Act over here is affecting US companies as well. What's your take on free speech in the UK? Do we have free speech?
No, you don't have free speech right now. And I'm actually glad that you're here right now, because I think that, you know, your broadcast put out a lot of truths, and that can be a dangerous thing. The truth is a dangerous thing when you're up against an enemy who doesn't want it out. And so I think this should be an issue. And I know the president has spoken about it and the vice president has spoken about it. We need to demand free speech for our friends in Great Britain. It's incredibly important, and people should not be getting locked up for Facebook posts.
Well, we're looking to you for inspiration. You're setting a good example, so we'll see how the next 4 years or so ends up in the UK. Kari, thank you for your time. You've been very generous. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ben. That was superb. Let's bring in our panel now, political consultant Thomas Corbett-Dillon and the former Chief of Staff to Joe Biden, Susan Platt. Susan, I've got to come to you first because I could feel the body language when you were listening to Kari Lake there. Where do you want to start? Just pick one that you disagree with her on.
There's a lot I disagree with her on, and I don't think it's appropriate to sit and say that the BBC and that the UK is in a mess. I don't believe that.
Oh, it is definitely in a mess. Why do you think we're here? Why do you think we're here, Susan? We're here to be saved. We're here for ideas.
But Donald Trump's not going to save you, because if you look at the most recent polling, a majority of Americans disapprove on Donald Trump on the top 6 issues. So I'm not sure he's saving us either. As a matter of fact, I know he's not saving us.
I mean, the polling that, you know, we could look at all sorts of different polls.
It's just horrible. People can't afford groceries. People can't afford anything.
Same in London. I mean, it's terrible. Well, that's because under the pandemic we did so much quantitative easing. We just printed trillions of dollars and trillions of pounds around the world. And now we're dealing with the mess of it, aren't we? What did you make of what Kari Lake said there,
I think she's fantastic. I think she's saying all the right things. And I think, you know, her position in the Trump administration is really interesting. She got put into these various organizations. And I think that's the one thing that Farage has not mentioned, is that there's a really big underlying issue with the immigration, and that is the funding of these left-wing organizations that are enabling these migrants to travel across, that are funding them with the phones and all these things. And the first thing Trump did was shut down USAID, which all of a sudden all these left-wing organizations stopped sending the migrants. You know, it is a tough journey. A lot of these people don't come from Mexico, they come from deep South America. That is a long journey up, and there are people that are funding that. So we need to look at who is funding some of these organizations that are supporting the migrants.
When you hear that, do you just hear cruelty?
Yeah, I do.
Just tell me why.
Because so many of these people are so much worse off.
But we have to take in the world?
No, we don't have to take in the world, but we have a responsibility as United States of America to try to help where we can. They say we're the most influential, the strongest country on the planet. We're not now, because we're not reaching out and trying to help with our wealth and understanding, trying to reach out and help others.
So we should bring everyone from Africa should come over here. They're really struggling, much more than South America.
We've got loads of people you can have.
I didn't say that's what USAID was all about. Not bringing them here.
No, they were funding money to the Clinton organization, to all of these things. They paid for Clinton's wedding. It was crazy.
Not bringing them here, but helping them, giving them vaccines, giving them education and computers in their own country.
It was totally corrupt.
Susan, I'm just going to let you, because we've been a bit mean to you tonight. It feels a bit ganged up on you. Tell me about this book. Tell me about this book before we go to a quick break.
This book, it really was a project of love. It was to my grandchildren, but to all women. And I lost my husband of 43 years, 3 years ago. And something compelled me to sit down, because he helped me find the courage to think beyond myself and to do all these different scary things when I didn't think I could. And I think it's also a book for women who are looking either to get involved in politics or any field they choose, to give them the courage to do those scary things that don't kill them. And that was our motto.
Okay, perfect. Right, we will be back in just a while to discuss more huge issues, because the BBC has sparked outrage. Charlie Kirk, they've branded him far right during coverage of his funeral. Is that accurate? And before that, though, I'm going to be bringing you all of tomorrow's front pages, including the New York Post, who are leading with a story that Jimmy Kimmel refused to apologise for his comments about Charlie Kirk, even though he's got his job back. Don't go anywhere. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the first edition of The Late Show Live with me, Bev Turner, here in Washington, D.C. Now, take a look at these pictures. This was from this evening in Italy, where clashes have broken out. Pretty violent scenes between pro-Palestinian protesters, the locals and the police. That footage was clashes breaking out across Italy earlier this evening. Tens of thousands took to the streets in solidarity with Palestine. Protesters armed with batons tried to smash the main entrance of Milan's central train station, throwing smoke bombs, bottles and stones at riot police. So let's take a look at some of the newspaper front page as well within my panel. But I do want to get you both to reflect on those scenes there. Those protesters, some of them will be immigrants who arrived from the Middle East, safe haven in Italy. Now they are furious that Maloney will not recognise Palestine as a state, and that, my friend, is what happens.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, if they hadn't have done it in the UK, it's exactly what you've been seeing in London. I mean, we've had that in London for how many, the last weeks, how many riots have there been? They just don't report it on, of course, the BBC. But I think it was really sort of embarrassing for the Prime Minister to stand there next to President Trump and say, you know, Hamas not going to have a role. They're opening an embassy in London. What do you mean? Like, it is Hamas opening an embassy in London now. They are running Palestine. So I think, you know, I think the Prime Minister is so lucky that the President's mother was born in Scotland, because because that is the one thread keeping the special relationship alive. And I think when we get to a Vice President Vance, when he becomes president, which is looking likely, he will not be as friendly to the United Kingdom, because this Labour government are no friend of America. They stand against everything America believes in. You said it yourself. How many 12,000 people put in jail every year for hate speech? The Americans cannot stand by that. And it's only President Trump who is holding back the American establishment from really turning on the British.
Right, Susan, those pictures from Italy tonight. You can be all lovely and think that lots of illegal migrants from difficult places in the world should be welcomed. And if it was a perfect world, we could do that. We have a tiny little island as well, remember, compared to your country. But that is what's happening in Europe now. These tensions from the Middle East are spilling over into European cities. Surely we should be worried about that.
Well, you asked me before, did I agree with Donald Trump on anything? One thing he did was the Abraham Accords, and maybe that's something we need to go back to right now. I think clearly that would help if we could all expand on that and agree with that again, which has been kind of blown up thanks to what's happening over there with Israel and Palestine right now. Yeah.
Okay, we're just going to go back to London as well to talk to Christo, who is there to reflect on some of these front pages. Christo, Fufas is there. What should we talk about now, Christo? We're looking at the newspapers here. And also, I'll just tell you while they bring you up, newspapers is a novel concept here in America. When I tell my panellists that we're going to look at the newspapers, they look at me a little bit baffled. Isn't that right, Susan? You don't really have newspapers here, do you?
I get the Sunday paper, so
yeah.
I like to hold it in my hand.
You see, we all grew up, didn't we, with the pictures on movies of kids cycling along on a bicycle and throwing the newspapers into the lawn, but you don't. That's just gone. Christo, apparently you're there.
Yes, I am here. Hi there, Bev and panel. Yes, I think we should talk about the Telegraph because slightly depressing front page and a little bit of Groundhog Day, actually, to bring in an American celebration when it comes to what's on the front page. This is Rachel Reeves being told by the Resolution Foundation to launch a tax raid on pensioners. Now, we know how well that went down before when they started trying to take money off pensioners. Now, the Resolution Foundation is saying, look, cut 2 pence from national insurance and then put it on income tax so that it is a bit more of a level playing field for everyone. It's not just that, though, that is being looked at by the Resolution Foundation. And let's not forget as well, Torsten Bell used to head up the Resolution Foundation and now is one of her closest allies. So, of course, we'll be looking at all of these methods to tax rise as well. They're also talking as well about taxing landlords more, making sure that they bring in more carbon taxes as well, perhaps taxing long-haul flights, more sugar taxes, more salt taxes. So basically, this is Rachel Reeves trying to fill what is now being described as a 40 billion black hole with all of these other tax rises. And again, this is doing nothing for the economy. Remember when Labour first got elected and they spent 3 months saying what an absolute mess we were in, so no one wanted to spend anything, our growth flatlined. Well, this is more of that, because every single day there is another story about what an absolute mess that we are in. And frankly, I don't know what is going to create growth in this country when we are at zero when it comes to growth. Inflation is up, debt is up, growth is at zero, and now more tax rises. It's not a pretty picture.
Yeah. OK, Christo,
we've got the Mail as well, if you'd like to talk about that.
Fergie, if we can. Well, when I say to people here in this studio, we're going to talk about Fergie, they think we're talking about the lead singer from the Black Eyed Peas, because Sarah Ferguson is irrelevant to this country now. There was a time when she was a huge star here. I think it was in 1986 she got married in that elaborate long dress. But this is a really bad day for Sarah Ferguson now, isn't it? It's only going to be downhill from here on in.
Yes, I think it's over for the Duchess of York, or former Duchess of York. 7 charities have now axed her over these Epstein emails, and that is what the front page of the Daily Mail is saying today. They're asking the question, will the King now banish Fergie? Humiliated is what they're saying. The Duchess of York was humiliated last night after 7 charities publicly cut ties. It is the cancellation of Sarah Ferguson in real time. And story. This is the revelation of these emails that were sent after Jeffrey Epstein was convicted of his heinous crimes. She gave an interview saying, I will cut off all contact with him. What he has done is absolutely awful. However, then these emails emerged, actually, when she was, saying lovely things to him, vowing to still be his friend, all of these sorts of things. She's since said she was given bad advice. But of course, lots of people now saying, look, the king has got to take action here. He cannot have Sarah Ferguson and, of course, Prince Andrew as well. I mean, Prince Andrew is his brother. There's no getting away from that. But, of course, the fact that they are still a part of the family, the fact that they were at the Duchess of Kent's funeral last week and looking so much like members of the family, laughing and joking. I mean, at one point, as I said earlier, they looked like they were at a cocktail party. I think this is a terrible look for the king. And I think that every time they are seen and another one of these scandals comes out and this complete idiocy from them, it just chips away at the crown, chips away at the monarchy. So the king has got to take action here, or they need to do the decent thing and actually withdraw from public life themselves. There's no coming back from this.
OK, Christo, hopefully there'll be some coming back from you in the next few weeks. Good to see you, Christo Fufus there. Let us bring in our panel again, political consultant Thomas Corbett-Dillon and former Chief of Staff to Joe Biden, Susan Platt. Just before we look at some of these stories in a little bit more depth, as we were just saying then, the newspapers is a very novel concept here, isn't it? Like, that industry has died.
And they don't have any power. The UK newspapers have so much power. It's not so much.
Is that a very recent phenomenon?
I think so. I mean, technology has taken over. So many people get their news from TikTok or X or on social media of all kinds. And, you look at the local newspapers, they've all gone under because no one supports them. So what you have are these big conglomerates, big newspapers and the internet, and that's it.
Let's talk about one story as well that is in the news headlines here in America and also in the UK. This is about Donald Trump registering, casting, naming Antifa as an official terrorist organisation. Susan, is that sensible?
No.
Go on. You've got to give me more than that.
It's just not. It's ridiculous.
Why?
What is Antifa? Can anybody say, actually, this organisation is Antifa?
Well, they're anti-fascist troublemakers who turn out to
They've done
protest.
that on purpose, so they can be very smart. They were just firebombing police stations in Portland. This is a terrorist organisation, and it is fantastic the president has taken this action because these people, you see them with their masks, chasing people down the street. How long ago was it they had their encampment in Seattle where they wouldn't let any police in?
Antifa doesn't exist. And if you talk about people going down chasing people with masks, let's talk about the Homeland Security and the ICE raids.
Fantastic. That's the federal government. They are not terrorists on the street.
But that's illegal. You have to show your face. I would run from them too. And I haven't committed any crimes, at least that I know of.
So why do you think?
Although he may find something.
So why has Donald Trump designated them as a terrorist organisation? They're sort of decentralised, kind of. They're sort of an array of autonomous groups that are meant to be anti-racism, anti-fascism, but they seem to be the most violent people at protests, and they've always got their faces covered up. Why?
It's easy because you can't define them. There is not one organisation you can say this is it. It's easy for Donald Trump to demonize people who you can't see. So you have to believe him, right? You can't say, this is who it is, this is where money comes from. It's easy. It's an easy target.
Well, it opens
and he
up.
doesn't have to explain anything.
It gives them a lot more resources when, for example, they are firebombing police stations in Portland. All of a sudden now it can be charges that are hopefully going to incentivize these people to stop acting so crazy. They can't run around the streets and take over cities and bomb police stations and attack the ICE vehicles. They have to stop.
Frankly, I would like to see those insurrectionists who broke into and just completely destroyed our Capitol. Instead of getting pardoned and let out of jail, they need to be in jail too. They did the same thing.
Let's talk about this Sarah Ferguson story then that is on the front pages of the Daily Mail and the British papers tomorrow. Are you familiar with who she is, Susan?
Yes, I am.
And does it matter? Like, how important is the royal family here to America? now, do you think?
Well, I think we look to the younger generation. I think we all revered the Queen and was sorry when she passed. And I don't, I think we're looking to the younger generation to kind of bring the monarchy into current times. I don't think that, but I think at least I have to give the UK credit. They have done more than we have when it comes to Epstein. And you asked about, do we agree on anything? I think that's the one thing right now Democrats and Republicans in Congress can agree on. Let all the names out. It's not a Democratic hoax. When Marjorie Taylor Greene and I agree on something, it's there's something
very
to
interesting
it.
about this, because what I think is happening is that the American establishment are so involved in the Epstein crisis. Tell me why the only heads that have rolled seem to be British people. Why is Prince Andrew cast out? Peter Mandelson now, the Duchess of York. Why is Bill Clinton still sitting on his charities? He was far more involved with Epstein than any. Of course, he was on the plane.
Well, so was Donald Trump.
Trump never went on the plane. He was never on the plane.
He didn't sign that, did he?
No, but why is Clinton still involved? He's still at all the events. He's fine. But Prince Andrew is banned. This is the Americans throwing us heads to the British.
But hang on a minute. What I'm baffled about is when Biden was in power and you were his chief of staff, you two must have sat down and said...
I wasn't in the White House. I was in the Senate.
Well, okay, but you must have sat down and said, let's look... Or he must have thought, right, if Trump is in these documents somewhere and we've got him banged to rights and there is a smoking gun, we are going to get it out now while they've got the power to do so. It cannot be there, surely.
I don't know the answer to that. Why won't they release it? If it's not there, why won't they release it? You're talking about Bill Clinton? Release it. You're Republican. Have them release it, but they won't do it.
It's because
what are they hiding? Oh my gosh!
All sides are involved, and it's a lot of the billionaires that funded the Democrats, funded the Republicans. They are the ones that are involved. So that is why this is being, shafted onto the British. Peter Mandelson got kicked out for what? Writing a letter. Obviously everything they do is terrible, but it is definitely the American establishment trying to blame this off onto the Brits. When in reality, this was a very American problem. There aren't that many Brits that are involved.
I don't disagree with you, and I say we have to out everyone who was involved in that, because everybody has forgotten about what's happened to these women.
Of course.
You must know people, though, Susan, who are involved in that Epstein cohort.
Not that I know of.
But everybody was. Everybody with any sort of power or influence.
I know a man who was in one of the pictures who was down in Mar-a-Lago, but he just happened to be in one of the videos. But he wasn't involved with Epstein. He just happened to be at Mar-a-Lago because Donald Trump had him at Mar-a-Lago all the time.
Ghislaine Maxwell was at Chelsea Clinton's wedding. She's in the pictures, like in the front row, while Chelsea Clinton is getting married. They were so involved with the Clintons. It is wild that he has not been brought down by this.
So, and we think because he was visiting the Clintons or visiting Donald Trump, that Donald Trump wasn't involved with them either?
He never went to the island. He was never on the plane.
But he was.
If he'd have been in those files, they were going to do. Hillary was going to do anything to bring him down. If he was in those files, they would have come out.
Oh, this is a bunch of malarkey. Donald Trump had Jeffrey Epstein. Sorry, I forgot his name there for a minute. It's easy to do. To Mar-a-Lago. Constantly.
He kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago, remember? He removed him as a member.
When he stole the young women from Donald Trump. Is that what they said? Isn't that what he said when he was stealing staff?
He was kicked out, and Bill Clinton did not kick him out.
OK, Susan Thomas, we've got to hold it there for now, because still to come this evening on The Late Show Live. I'll tell you what it was like to fly on Air Force One. That's coming up shortly, but first.
I want to say it like it is. Don't take Tylenol. Don't take it.
Breaking news out of the United States of America as the Trump administration issues a warning over Tylenol. We know it as paracetamol. We're going to have all the details. Up next, this is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air, gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Miriam, you can't be serious. Scrapping the triple lock on state pensions? Madness.
Andrew, we just can't carry on pretending. The numbers just don't add up. We've got to be honest with people. We've got to face the facts. That's what people want.
Well, that's what you get on GB News and on Britain's Newsroom. Lively debates, lively conversation.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first, and we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Effective immediately, the FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of well, let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen. Is that okay? Which is basically commonly known as Tylenol, during pregnancy can be associated with a very increased risk of autism.
So to that breaking news out of the United States, only a couple of hours ago, if that, Donald Trump and his administration announced the use of acetaminophen, the active ingredient in Tylenol, we call it paracetamol, can increase the risk of autism when used during pregnancy. So let's talk to my panel about this. Political consultant Thomas Corbett-Dillon is still here, and former Chief of Staff to Joe Biden, Susan Platt. Thomas, I can already see that I've seen the headlines discrediting this attempt to just find out what causes autism.
Of course.
Why?
Yeah. Well, it's always believe the science until the science is not what they agree with. And all of a sudden, now we have scientists in the CDC that have found this out. The left is saying, no, it's all fake, can't be believed. But you know what I think RFK has made a really important point of doing is digging out the corruption that has been at the highest levels of the American pharmaceutical industry. And I think one of those big issues was that all of the CDC directors, when they left their job, they got hired by Big Pharma. So the corruption has been, he called it himself a revolving door. So I think you're going to see, this is just the beginning. He's digging into everything from food. I mean, you've been in America now. You know, I saw your post about the cereal.
Yeah.
You've noticed how everything here is like neon, like radioactive, all banned in Europe. So he's going to figure out a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. Susan, we touched on this earlier in the show, and you've already decided that this can't be believed, haven't you?
Well, I did listen to the news this afternoon before I came down. I listened to a very prominent doctor who said the science has to guide this, and the science for the past 25 years has said there's no correlation So until you can show me a correlation, and I think even Donald Trump has said they're not certain. They're saying this could be it. Wouldn't it be wonderful if it was that simple? If that was that simple, and it would save so many children and families from going through this.
And to be fair, they didn't say it was that simple. Asking Donald Trump to announce medical data doesn't play to his strengths. I would agree with you on that.
Absolutely not.
But he talks in headlines, and it doesn't necessarily play to. And to his credit, this is Trump 2.0 that you wouldn't see with Trump version 1. Is he turns to his experts and he says, "Have I got that right? Or would you like to step forward and just clarify what you mean by that?"
First, let me say, Robert Kennedy Jr. is not a medical doctor, and he's not an expert.
Doctors do not always get it right.
And I would turn around and I would say, this is good if we can find out what the problem is and how this is caused. But why did you cut all the funding for children's cancer research?
Wait, but that is
no, that's what everybody says. But that's different.
That is a classic straw man, and that is why Joe Biden didn't do enough to find out what's causing autism. You must admire the motivation to find out. Or maybe you think autism isn't a problem, to have gone from 1 in 10,000 in the 90s to 1 in 31 today.
Of course it's a problem, and I'd love to have it be this simple. But you can't, I just can't say that, you know, how many people are dying of cancer? A lot more than the autistic.
No, but let's stay on this. Let's stay on this.
But it's all connected. Everything is connected. It's not, you can't say this one thing in a vacuum.
But like you said, you're saying, so it took, for 25 years, they've said this fine. But for a long time for cancer, they had a different treatment. The 25 years, the science was settled. All of a sudden, they discover a breakthrough, and we have new treatments. So science changes. So maybe the fact that they've dug into this and figured it out, I don't think you can just write it off because it's come from this administration. RFK has spent his entire career suing Big Pharma to say to them that they are corrupt, they are peddling lots of these vaccines that children don't need to be taking. Do you know how many vaccines the children have to take in this country versus what they take in the UK and Europe? It's crazy. They give so many more vaccines here to babies than we do in the UK. I always will trust the NHS that has no profit incentive than I trust the big pharma that make trillions of dollars selling these things to children and to adults, you know.
Let me say, first of all, Bobby Kennedy Jr. used to be a climate activist too, not just about pharma. And I think in some respects, something's got to, you know, he had that worm in the brain. I don't want to make fun of it because it's horrible. But you can't
hang on. Did you literally just try to suggest that the man is not neurologically intact because of a medical condition?
I think he thinks things, and he takes things out of context. And I think we need to research more.
We have got, I think we've got somebody there actually. Well, let's go live to FDA Commissioner Martin McCarry. Thank you, Martin, so much for joining us. I'm so interested from the Food and Drink Administration here in America, who's played a big part in this. You might have heard our discussion there. It's lovely to talk to you. Just tell our viewers and our listeners and my panel what the findings are about autism and the connection that might exist between that and what we would call paracetamol.
Well, thanks for having me on. We have a massive autism epidemic. You know, it's gone up 500% in the last several decades. It was rare a generation ago. You just didn't see people with these repetitive motions and tics and completely nonverbal. You still don't see it in anyone over the age of 60. And so what's going on? Something is happening. And so we did an extensive evaluation of the research. We found a couple plausible mechanisms, and we felt compelled immediately to let people know as we discovered things, and one of those things was that autism has been associated with pregnant women taking acetaminophen, and we also identified a mechanism by which the receptor for folate, which is a vitamin B9, was blocked by an autoimmune disease in some kids with autism, and there is a therapy that we're approving in 2 to 3 weeks whereby that pathway can be bypassed, and kids can have noticeable clinical improvement 20 to 50% of the time. And so we hope hundreds of thousands of kids will benefit from this new treatment called leucovorin.
How rigorous is this research, Martin? And what would you say to people such as Susan, who will very commonly tonight say, oh, if it was this easy, we'd have known about it already?
Well, remember, for 15 years, the medical establishment said that opioids are non-addictive. For 50 years, the medical establishment said saturated fat causes heart disease when no evidence found that to be true. And for 15 plus years, the American Academy of Pediatrics told infants to avoid a touch of peanut butter, thinking it would prevent peanut allergies, when in fact it ignited the largest peanut epidemic allergy problem in UK and US history. So we have to be careful when we rely on the groupthink of the medical establishment. We saw during COVID, they ignored natural immunity, pushed cloth masks on toddlers, and in the U.S. kept schools closed for nearly 2 years. The evidence is pretty substantial. And remember, most low-grade fevers do not need any treatment anyway, even without this concern. A fever may be a body's natural way of ridding an infection. One research study from Johns Hopkins, my former institution, found that when you treat a fever, you actually prolong the duration of illness in a child. But there were 27 studies recently reviewed in a Harvard Mount Sinai report that was published that pointed to this association. And I'll just read to you a quote from the dean of the Harvard School of Public Health. Quote, "There is a causal relationship between prenatal acetaminophen use and the neurodegenerative disorders of ADHD and autism spectrum disorder." That's enough for me. Shouldn't we play it on the side of safety when it comes to our nation's kids, and in the context of an expanding epidemic where we otherwise have no other plausible cause?
And Martin, tell us what else you're doing in terms of this research into autism, because this is a sort of multidisciplinary, multi-departmental approach, isn't it? You've not finished this research, it's only the start.
That's right. We're making the initial findings on acetaminophen in pregnancy and the treatment of leucovorin, totally independent, which is an exciting treatment for many kids with autism spectrum disorder and cerebral folate deficiency. You know, 2/3 of kids will notice a benefit in that group with leucovorin. We're also looking into changes in the microbiome. You know, gut health is central to overall health. We are learning so much about the gut-brain axis in general in research. There's also a view that mitochondrial dysfunction may be involved in autism. It's probably involved in many chronic diseases. The general principles of insulin resistance from eating high glycemic foods, ultra-processed foods, too much added sugar, and ultra-processed foods, insulin resistance, mitochondrial dysfunction, and general body inflammation. And when you put those three together, it may explain a lot of the chronic conditions that we see in medicine.
Okay, thank you so much. Martin McAree there, the FDA Commissioner, was one of the gentlemen in the White House this afternoon who gave us that those findings. And it is only just the start, as he says, into looking into it. But I, for one, am thrilled to hear people in positions of power making decisions about medicine, talking about things like your microbiome. I'm home. GBnews.com/your say. Right, moving on. If you ever wondered what happens behind the scenes at a presidential state visit, well, I can reveal those secrets to you in just a moment in this exclusive behind the scenes look.
Mr. President, do you want to call some of the...
I would love to call a few of them. Bev, do you want to have a question?
6 hours in the sky, slick, seamless, and none of us knowing a near miss with another jet almost changed history.
Sir, 1300 traffic, go off your left wing by 8 miles, 747. I'm sure you can see who it is. It's flight level 320, maintain 330. I'll keep an eye out for him. He's white and blue. Pay attention. Get off the iPad.
We just landed off Air Force One here in Stansted. You can see the set behind me where the President will be emerging any minute now.
While the President and the First Lady took Marine One to Windsor, the press pack were hundled, somewhat reluctantly, into a Chinook helicopter. But behind all the pomp and pageantry, security was intense. X-ray machines, rooftop snipers, and drone patrols everywhere.
But this is truly one of the highest honors of my life. Such respect for you and such respect for your country.
Behind the grandeur, the grind. Sandwiches on the lawn and the world's media watching the banquet on a side room TV. And half of the trip concluded in Britain, the questioning remained fierce on the trip back to Washington, D.C.
What do you think about the fact that you attend an event in England, a state visit, it's spectacular, and yet the Mayor of London can't be there?
I don't want him there. I asked that he not be there. I don't want them. I think the Mayor of London, Khan, is among the worst mayors in the world.
So from Washington to Windsor, GB News was there every step of the way, bringing you the state visit secrets you won't see anywhere else.
There, but the state visit did also lend itself to a few intense moments, including on Palestine. So let's speak now to author and founder of Migration Films, Matthew Robinson. Good evening, Matthew. Good evening. A huge area of discrepancy between the UK and the US. Palestine, should it be a state or not? Give me your thoughts on this. We're seeing these riots in Italy tonight because Italy would not designate Palestine as a sovereign state. Go.
Okay, well, Britain has designated Palestine officially as a state. So, I mean, that's happened here. It's
I think we've lost him. I think we've lost Matthew Robinson there. But luckily I have two wonderful guests with me still in the studio, Thomas Corbett-Dillon and Susan Platt. Susan, we've got 40 seconds. Show us your other book.
Aha.
She's determined to get this in. She's written another book, you know, fiction this time. There we go, The Elusive Peacock. An exclusive, an outspoken woman, a force that wants her to stop. Luckily you didn't stop tonight. Will you come back and see us again?
Maybe. If you bring Thomas with you.
Thomas, have you enjoyed the first
It's fantastic.
Late Show Live?
I hope everyone stayed up late in England. I know it's late there, but it's actually nice here. We're having a good time.
We are having a good
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. We are having a very good time. And in fact, we didn't even get onto the auto pen, which quite a few people were messaging our inbox to ask you about. But thank you. Maybe we'll talk about that next time. Don't let that put you off. Thank you for spending your night with the Late Show Live. Thank you to all of my guests and my panel of Susan and Thomas. I have been looking at your messages. I'm going to go and look at them now when I go to bed. See you back here tomorrow, midnight in the UK, 7 p.m. Eastern Time here in America. See you tomorrow.